Hi everybody, Dr. Dan Lawrence here. And this video, the purpose of this video is to talk about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. I don't think you can be in the writing field or communications or technology or rhetoric or any of these adjacent fields and not be absolutely, fascinated and horrified and excited and intrigued by what's happening with artificial intelligence right now because basically um, and I want to say this video is mostly geared toward my students in my classes, but I'll be thinking more broadly about some things here too, talking more broadly about some things, but um, because we now have a publicly available, at the time of recording this video, free to use artificial intelligence platform that can generate text responses for you that is really accurate for the most part and kind of seems magical in some ways, seems really amazing. It seems like a technological shift has occurred um, rather quickly, although some of us who have been watching these things aren't super surprised by it. Nonetheless, there's a kind of magic to, you can ask ChatGPT to um, create text based on a genre, a format, and then with specific content, and it produces pretty reliable results. So I can ask ChatGPT, write me a sonnet in the style of Shakespeare about mushrooms. And it will do that, pretty closely. And it'll even, for the most part, it'll use iambic pentameter and have a rhyming couplet at the end and has all the features of what looks like a Shakespearean sonnet. And again, that's not super surprising because scholars were doing this. The Deep Spear project, scholars published a piece where they had GPT-2, a predecessor of GPT-3 from the OpenAI company. Um, they were using GPT-2 to do exactly that. They were asking it to write Shakespearean sonnets, and it did it pretty reliably. And they pass human detection about 50% of the time. And that was several years ago. That was 3 or 4, maybe more years ago. Um, so obviously, a lot of questions come up. Educators are a lot of educators are panicking and saying, watch out, students are going to be using these tools to, plagiarize or to cheat in their courses, and we should ban these kinds of technologies. And I just think that's the wrong approach. I think these are fun and interesting and novel and engaging tools and technologies that we're going to be able to use as writers, as scholars, and we've got to face it head on. We've got to learn how to incorporate and adapt because before long, companies are going to be incorporating these technologies in their work cycles, and you're going to have professional writers working with artificial intelligence. Already, that's happening. I'll post a link to a fiction fantasy author who uses artificial intelligence and things like that. And so I think that if there is a right way to think about ChatGPT, the right way to think about it is to engage with it, to explore with it, to play with it. And another link I'll post is to an opinion piece from the rhetorician and computer scientist Ian Bogost, who makes exactly that argument, who says that if there is a right way to interact with artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, it's to play with it. It's to view it more like a musical instrument rather than a tool. Because what these machine learning language models, these large language learning models have done is comb through all the text on the entire internet, essentially, right? So that includes things like Project Gutenberg. That means that like every classical canonical novel. That means that you could ask ChatGPT to do things that, kind of revive the voice, or kind of stylistically revive the voice of Leo Tolstoy and have Leo Tolstoy write something about or the ghost of Leo Tolstoy channeled through artificial intelligence to write something about um, something anachronistic, something that wouldn't have existed during the time of Leo Tolstoy, or to have a kind of conversation with Hemingway or something like that, right? To kind of that's just one of like a million different playful things you could do with ChatGPT. Now, I would build on that a little bit. I think that the right way to approach artificial intelligence is to think about, critically, philosophically, ethically, how we're going to interact with it, um, and and to view it as a kind of generative, I guess again, instrument, as a kind of generative. Bogos calls it a toy more than a tool, but I think we can call it a tool. How can you use ChatGPT and artificial intelligence language models to like spur creativity? Think about Cicero, right, the ancient Roman rhetorician who put so much focus on invention. Where do our ideas come from? Um, the classical ancient idea was that inspiration was kind of like the gods breathing through us. And some people still kind of, they feel like divinely inspired, or they have a light bulb moment or a shower thought or some wonderful idea that seems to manifest out of nowhere, right? um, I think that's one way to think about artificial intelligence language models is, maybe you can use them to creatively inspire yourself, maybe to just get the ball rolling on a project or to bounce ideas around as a kind of, again, a kind of generative tool. Like what they're using, what these models are based off of is kind of like you know, the collected language of the internet and so many countless voices, and so you can channel that and play around with it. So that's the first major thing here is, I think, don't be afraid of these technologies. Learn how to use them. Learn how to use them ethically. Don't rely on ChatGPT to think for you, to write for you, but think of ChatGPT like a little companion, like a little helper, like another voice in the conversation, and maybe it will inspire some new ideas or get you out of writer's block, or inspire some new way to look at the world. I've been playing around with, Midjourney, the one of the many art generation tools, the visual artificial intelligence generation tools, and I found that to be really generative, really creative. Designing like book covers and thinking, for some of the fiction work that I do on the side, um, thinking about different scenes and characters, and I think that's really interesting, right? I mean, you kind of spur on new ideas using these tools. So, I guess that's the first major argument I would make is just don't be afraid of them. We're in the early stages of artificial intelligence development and what's going to be available for the public. So, I think the right thing to do as a writer, as a scholar, as a thinker, as a technologist, as a rhetorician is to play with them a little bit and invite them in, warily. Invite these things in critically. Invite these things in and play with them and see what they can do, and maybe you'll dismiss them. But don't bury your head in the sand. Don't be afraid of them. Because people are using them and people will continue using them, and we haven't really worked out the relationship yet. In the same way that we haven't really worked out our relationship with social media and other emergent technologies, cryptocurrencies. We don't know where they all, when a new technology bursts upon the scene, we don't know exactly where they fit into our lives. And so we have to openly, critically engage with them until we figure out exactly. But like, again, there's an ethical dimension here. It's, you don't want to. You don't want a machine to think for you, and a machine can't think for you, and a machine can't write for you. What Bagost recognizes in his piece, again, which I'll have linked somewhere around here, is that ChatGPT really fails at being prosaic. It fails at having the richness, the fire is what I would call it, the kind of human heart, whatever you want to, the soul, the fire, the ancient, creative, distinctively human thing is missing still. Maybe down the line that emerges as a feature that we'll see. We'll, teach machine learning language models to be more artistic or be more literary or be more philosophical or prosaic, or I don't know. But right now, that's something that seems to be kind of missing from the dimension. So don't let the things think for you. All right, maybe that's enough for now. Maybe that is just to kind of introduce you to some of the things I'm thinking about in terms of ChatGPT and those, I guess, those two thoughts. So one, don't be afraid of them. Play with them. Have reasonable expectations about something like ChatGPT, uh, and don't let it think for you. Of course, that's really obvious to everyone here. Is you could use ChatGPT to generate simple 5-paragraph essays that are kind of boring, but they're basically fluent and argumentative and kind of fit the bill, but there might be some inaccuracies in them and you'd have to edit it. And like, sure, you could do that. It's not the Is that the best use case for ChatGPT? Probably not. The most inspired writers, the most inspired thinkers, who are going to use these tools are going to find ways to augment their own creativity with them, to allow them to help be generative, to kind of invigorate the generative spirit or something like that, to get ideas bursting and to have little sparks and fireworks flying from having a new voice in the conversation of your mind and your work. Okay, well, look, I think I'll leave it there. I'll post a link to that piece by Bagost from The Atlantic. I think that's really worth a read. Mirrors some of my own thinking. And experiment, play, and don't let a machine think for you. But maybe we can talk to machines now. Maybe that's part of the conversation that's going on. Maybe maybe ChatGPT is a voice in the conversation now, that we can decide how we want to respond to that and what we want to do with that, and the degrees to which there's purpose, function, and inspiration from that is ultimately up to you. So take care of yourselves and good luck.